So it's 8 o'clock. Welcome to this NewDeal Invest webinar on AI and AI investing. We're going to be talking about that subject today. If you have questions, do put them in the chat on this Zoom meeting, and we're also broadcasting live on YouTube. So if YouTube listeners have any questions, then put them in the live chat there, and we'll see if we can answer as many as possible. If we can't answer questions, all the questions, then we'll answer them on our Q&A sessions. We are striving to make a Q&A every second Sunday, and you can find the links on our YouTube channel, and they'll be you'll be able to watch them there afterwards as well. We'll be bringing our portfolio team on in the coming sessions. Simon and Jordan, and they're amazing. They know so much about tech companies. So follow that. And the program for today, we're going to be talking about AI. First, a little bit about what AI is, and then about what impact AI will have on economies, and how to think about AI in businesses. And then we'll look at our framework for AI investing, and then I'll go through how my thoughts on the timing of AI investment, and then we'll talk a little bit about NewDeal Invest as well. Soon as there's questions, must be put in Q&A in the webinar, not the chat. So in the Q&A section with the questions, or in the chat on YouTube. So a disclaimer here, tech investment is highly volatile and tech is unpredictable. So I'll be talking about some stocks that we like today, and that stance might change in a week or in a month or in a very short time, because everything is moving so fast right now. So it is very difficult. And this volatility and unpredictability is also one of the reasons that tech is attractive as investment. I believe tech is undervalued, and I believe the reason for that is that it yields poor outcomes if you put it into a too narrow portfolio, and if you're not prepared for the volatility and the unpredictability, which is really what we excel in doing in NewDeal Invest. So NewDeal Invest, I think we're the best solution for tech investments there is. We are tech specialists, and we create broad and active, managed, diverse portfolios. And then we have the long-term focus, where we look mainly at the tech and the competitive advantages of the businesses. Our investment process is in two layers. Layer one is sort of all the usual stuff. We do analysis, strategic analysis of the companies. What are their tech? What are their competitive advantages? We do fundamental analysis, and then we create some broad portfolios which are index-like, which is the way to mitigate the idiosyncratic variance in tech companies. And then we apply layer two, where we optimize with the variance, actually try to make the variance something that benefits our portfolios instead of a problem for portfolios. Many investors try to avoid variance, but depends on how you address it. We have the main fund, which is the original NewDeal Invest, where we have 4 different portfolios, which are tech portfolios, but with each of their tweak. We have a very diversified gorilla portfolio. Gorilla because we invest in the biggest companies within each technological segment. Then we have the mature tech portfolio, value tech, where we invest in the biggest companies, most mature companies. companies, not so many young companies in that basket. We have a blockchain portfolio where we invest in crypto companies and tech companies that are active in the crypto space. And then we have the alpha portfolio, which is the more concentrated strategy. And you can see that during the last year, we've outperformed the NASDAQ in each of the portfolios, and the blockchain portfolio really standing out last year. Then we have the next sort of generation of portfolio, which is a public listed portfolio with the ticker name PMI NDI. And the ISIN code here is listed on the NASDAQ in Denmark. It went live the 9th of October, 23. We're up 30% in those 7 months. NASDAQ is up 21% in that period. Then we have the NDI Future Tech, which is our latest portfolio. It's on eToro. And the eToro platform, really a good platform, modern platform with highly competitive fee structures and etc. We've been live there for 5 months, and this is up 15% versus the NASDAQ's 8% in that period. Now, over to AI, which is the topic of today. And I want to zoom out first and then see what's really happening and what is new. We've had AI for like 10, 15 years. AI has been curating our Facebook feed and the ads we see in our Google pages and our Facebook feed again. And Meta and Google has been dominating in AIs in the tens. So actually, when Elon Musk and Sam Altman wanted to start OpenAI, they tried to recruit people from Meta and Google. And one of the guys they recruited was Ilya Sutskever, who was briefly CEO of OpenAI when the problems in OpenAI was emerging recently, and he was one of the early recruitments from Google, I think it was, and but his start was back in 2010-12, where he won the ImageNet classification competition with AlexNet, and it was a competition where a computer program should guess pictures of cats and dogs and houses and cars and trees and stuff like that. And the winner, the prior 2 years before AlexNet, had 28 and 26% faults, and AlexNet got down to 16%, and that sort of that caught the media's attention. Now, what they did was mainly on the hardware side. Instead of using a computer with a CPU, they went down to the local computer store, and they bought some GPUs from NVIDIA, and then they did a bit of programming, and then they won the competition. So what they really did was take the leap to use graphic processing units instead of CPUs for AI, and that's really the big new thing is the hardware capabilities. What is happening here is enabling AI to become a lot more, because the hardware capabilities is getting bigger. And so if we think about what's new, then this guy here, Tim Berners-Lee, he coined it back in 1999. He coined something he called the semantic web, Web 3.0, not to be confused with Web 3, which is about blockchain and crypto and stuff. But Tim Berners-Lee, he invented the internet protocols. So yeah, he's somebody in the history of the IT revolution, and he said that the day that computers will understand what is on the internet, that'll be the day when computers will start to do day-to-day mechanisms of trade, bureaucracy, and many tasks in our daily life could be handled by machines talking to machines. So that was a vision from 1999, and that's actually what is happening now. And the thing that's happening now is that computers or AI models is able to get to the size where they can understand our world, understand what is written on the internet. And the thing about understanding the world starts with describing the world to a computer, and that to a programmer it's called ontology, and that's the art of describing the real world to a computer. In philosophy, ontology is about describing the real world, the existing world. What is it? How do you describe it? How do you define it? And it's a difficult task because a word like orange could either be a fruit or it could be a color. And when we use the word orange, we know what we mean because of the context we use it in. And that could be a vocal context or just a physical context. If we're in the grocery, in the fruit section, and we talk about orange, everybody knows that it's not the color, but it's the fruit. So context matters, and that's what hardware is enabling computers to get to a point where it really changes the computer's ability to interact with the real world. And Elon Musk, he coined this term here. He says Tesla is ahead in real world AI, and real world AI is actually about understanding the real world. And I'll give you an example to explain how difficult it can be. So if we think about a car with some intelligence driving the car, either a computer or a human, and that car comes up to a pedestrian crossing, then the intelligence needs to determine how to drive through that pedestrian crossing. And it depends on the surroundings and the people around it. So if you have a person that is entering the pedestrian crossing, the car needs to stop. If you have a person with his back turned to the pedestrian crossing and the guy is talking to another person, then you can probably drive through. If you have an old disabled person a couple of meters away from the crossing, then you can also drive through. Or if you have a snowman standing next to the pedestrian crossing, you can drive through. So context and gray zones really matter for how to drive the car in this particular situation. And that's the thing about the world, that it has so many gray zones. It has so many special things where context really matters a lot. So you need to understand the broader picture of and understand the details of what you're looking at to understand how to fare in the real world. And that gives an idea of how much knowledge these models need to internalize, and that gives you an idea of the capability of the chips and hardware that Jensen Huang and NVIDIA are building at the moment. So let's look at what we use computers for, and what is the perspective of these new capabilities of the computer. So if we go back to how we've been using computers so far, then we have the human here, and we have the world here, and the humans are interacting with the world, driving the tractor or whatever we're doing. And then we can also use the computer as a tool. And to use a computer, we have had user interfaces during the history. And I remember these interfaces. I remember trying to figure out how to use the DOS. And if you made a little fault in what you were writing, the computer just didn't get what you were writing. So I was never able to use the DOS in any meaningful way. Then Windows 95 came out, and you could just point and click, and that was more something for me. I started using computers here and finding them useful. And then we got the apps and the smartphone. And an app is really just a user interface that helps the human figure out how to communicate to the computer in a useful way, a way that facilitates what you want out of the computer. Kind of help you want out. So in some apps you can point and click, and in some apps you need to write or you need to pick some stuff. The app is just a really good user interface, and user interfaces are changing now because now or pretty soon you'll just be able to talk to the computer. And I put in the smart glasses from Meta here as a user interface you can talk to. You can talk to Siri or Alexa, and in a couple of years they'll understand the concept and context of what you're talking about. So if I should point out a bear case for Apple, that would really be that the user interfaces are changing. So maybe we don't need a smart screen in 5 years. Maybe we can use another user interface. And if you think of Apple in a user interface context, then Apple just smashed it and won the last user interface generation. The user interface before that was Microsoft Windows, and Microsoft just nailed that and won that. In the early zeros, Microsoft was attempting to figure out the right user interface for the next generation, and they just totally flopped. They got it wrong, and Steve Jobs, he got it right. But now Apple is in the situation that Microsoft was in the early zeros, that they need to get on the wagon with the next user interface and hope somebody's not smarter than them. So, but user interfaces is one thing. What will really change the way we live and matter a lot is when Tim Berners-Lee's semantic web is a reality. When we no longer need to have humans in the loop, when computers can just interact with the world, that is when things really starts to matter for the way we live. And when that happens, then scalability will sort of be infinite. You'll have bottlenecks like energy and chips and stuff like that. But humans is a large bottleneck in sort of how much effectivity you can produce. And we're at the first innings now. We are using AI, but only in a way where humans is still in the loop, and that's what we call co-pilots. It's not the co-pilot that's flying the plane. Sometimes he flies the plane, but the pilot is having an eye on him, and that's where Microsoft is today with their Teams and their Office stuff. You can have the computer help you, but it's still a human that is piloting stuff. Tesla is there; they can drive the car, but it's still the human that's piloting the car. DoorDash can help drivers get from A to C in the best way, but it's still the human that's delivering the package. A lot of software as a service software companies are also able to do co-piloting because the work they do, everything is digitized, so it's fairly easy to present to a computer and have the computer have ideas about how to help the human that is doing the tasks. So I said on this slide, that it will change the way we live. Automation and robotics will change the way we live. And that's a phrase I have from Carlota Perez here. If you want to learn about technological revolutions, she's the one you should listen to. She's a British Columbian economist, and this is her framework on how technological revolutions work out. And when we stand here at the early innings of AI, it's a good thing to to get a picture of where we are in a historical context and what that means. And this is her model for technological revolutions. It starts out with a phase where you have the new technologies, but they're not really matter. They don't matter for economy, and if you run a business, you're not being outcompeted if you don't use the new technologies. And maybe there's really no idea for the new technologies. And then you come to a turning point where things accelerate. And what Carlotta Perez says is there often needs to be a political embracement of the new technology for things to really happen. And if we look at the former technological revolution, which was about cars and mass production and oil, then the sort of the political endorsement came during World War II. That was where countries and nations really wanted cars and mass production to accelerate and to be a part of society. And and then that technological revolution took off. And if when you stood here back in 1915, when Ford made the car affordable for many more people, and they were thinking about how is this car going to change the way we live, or what's it going to be, and they would conclude that, well, we don't need a horse, so we'll get rid of all the horse shit in the streets, but it cannot drive much faster, and it has its limitations, and you need to find oil to put on it, and so you couldn't imagine how much the car would mean for society and productivity and growth of society over the next 80 years. That was impossible because it was so nascent back in that time. And it'll be the same with AI. We can't imagine today what AI will mean. We don't have robots doing lots of things in our houses. We only very few of us had tried full self-driving, so we can't imagine what it will mean for society and for the way we live. And about the phrase about the way we live, changing the way we live. So Carlotta Perez says that you have really good technologies like plastic, and they're really smart, but they don't change the way we live. Technological revolutions do. So computers and smartphones and mobile phones, they've been really smart, but they haven't changed the way we live. But automation and robotics will eventually change the way we live. So when we look at the AI investment opportunity, in NewDeal Invest, we have three buckets we think in. We think in AI infrastructure, we think in use cases, and we think in data. And I'll take a look at each of these three buckets, sort of to have a framework for what we're investing in and looking for. And the first one, the use cases, is really the biggest opportunity. So now, if you think back on 1915 and think about the cars, then investing in car companies grew up and became a decent part of the economy, but only a small part of the economy. But if you think about what the car meant for economy, all the transportation companies, the highway companies, all the business that has been enabled because of the car. Also, a thing like a factory or like a big city is only a possibility because we have the car, we have the buses, and we can transport people to work and stuff like that. So the use cases for the car was the really big opportunity, or the big economic impact on society. So chip sector is nice, but it will only be a small part of the AI economy eventually when we get further down the line. Use cases are really hard to predict. I talked about that. Another good example that I like to talk about how hard it is to predict the use cases is when we think about 4G telephones. So 4G, we got that around 2010, something like that. And 4G was basically fast internet. So suddenly we could download documents, or we could download pictures, or we could stream a movie on our smartphone, and that was really amazing. But if somebody asked me in 2010 what businesses will be created because of this, I would think, okay, you can stream a movie, maybe Netflix, and you can download pictures. I probably wouldn't be able to predict just how impactful that would be on Facebook and Kodak, etc. But killer apps like Uber, for instance, I would never have imagined that. And I had not tried to shop really online. I had not tried the experience of being able to scroll through dresses and shoes and all the products that you can buy in e-commerce. So I was not able to predict how useful that would be. And that's where we stand now with AI. It's so hard to predict where it's going. So for now, AI is co-pilots, but in the coming 5-10 years, we'll see so many more use cases coming up. Then infrastructure is sort of where investment dollars are going right now, and where AI is an obvious investment case. We don't separate infrastructure in software and hardware. When you have a complete product and you separate it into different parts of the product, and the different parts will be produced by different sub-suppliers, that's called modularization. And modularization only works when a product is mature. But when a product is young and immature, it changes all the time, and so you cannot start producing a part relying on the total product will be the same once you are finished with the production. So right now, software and hardware are optimally vertically integrated. So come out of the same company, the same solution. That's where the strength is when tech is immature and products are young. And if you look to the PC, then that is a mature product. But AI is not a mature product. It's new, and complexity just increased immensely in that. So vertically integration, and we see that with NVIDIA. They have the CUDA platform. They have the AI libraries. They have some finished products. So they have a lot of software as well as their hardware. We see that in a company like Broadcom. Just bought VMware, is one of the largest chip producers in the world in networking, and they bought this virtualization company, which is also connected to networking. We see it in Meta, trying to vertically integrate, and software. Lots of software companies will be building their own specialized silicon to compete effectively. So that's one thing we're looking for. Then we're looking for edge compute. So edge compute is going to be the next thing from here. That's going to take off in H2 this year and 2025. We've been building out the data centers for the training, and now inference is going to be on the edge for many use cases. Then heterogeneous compute is also a trend. We've been seeing a few platforms and then modularization of the computer industry and software industry, and now we're going to see a lot of companies doing specialized chips for special workloads. So that's also a trend. And then I think it's really, really important here to be humble, because when you have new technology, a new technological wave, it decreases visibility and predictability. I really love this interview with Steve Jobs and what's he called from Microsoft, the founder there, Bill Gates. And it's from 2007, and Bill Gates was just the winner of the former generation of user interface, and he was so confident, so stupidly confident, and Steve Jobs was just so open and so flexible in his thinking, and that prevailed. And I think we're at that same time now. We cannot predict what this new technology will do to many of the businesses and technologies we've been seeing winning. So the past technology wave was internet, and it's been going on for 25 years. And for the last 5-10 years, it's been betting on things just being sort of the same. And that's going to change now. So aiming in the right direction is really realistic, and that's enough. That's all you can do. The last bucket is data, and yeah, we divide data into three. Yeah, that's just a framework for keeping your mind open to different types of data. So we have common data, which is Meta and Google. They know who I am, where I live, who my friends are, what I like to do in my spare time. Then we have data for training. We have Reddit, a large data pool. We have YouTube. If you want to build an AI product that helps people to repair things in their houses or gardens or something, then YouTube is a data set you want to train your models on. Then we have X. We have hotels.com. They have all the user recommendations of different hotels and rooms and stuff. So if you want to build an AI product that helps me find the right hotel room for me in the future, then hotels.com is the data that you need to train it on. Then you have proprietary data. That's data that's being generated from doing business, doing interactions with people, with the world. TikTok learns what kind of videos we like to see. That's data that's proprietary to them. Co-pilots will learn a lot about what our intentions, what our needs are when we're working in a spreadsheet and we've done this and that, and then what do we want to happen next? What are our objects and the desired outcomes? And that's really going to be valuable data. When I talk about co-pilots as not being the real deal, I really think that co-pilots is sort of just the middle stage before we go to full automation. So I think co-pilot, the leading co-pilot companies are really the companies, or some of the companies you want to invest in. And then you have real-time data, which I think is an insanely valuable data set that nobody really talks about. But knowing where a person are and what the intent of the person's behavior is at this moment, what the person is trying to achieve, that's really valuable for advertising, for selling, for e-commerce. I'll get back to that. So the timing of AI investment right now, if we just look at sort of new technology advances, then you need to discover a new technology, then you need to build the prototype, and then you need to start production. And we've been through that. And next you need to find applications and business models. You need to scale it up to lower costs. And big tech is really a huge resource here, because the AI sort of industry ecosystem does not need to show any sort of meaningful profit the next 5 years, because big tech is just has these large balance sheets and are magically producing money, producing liquidity every quarter. So they'll be able to fund a lot of that, and that's actually a really fantastic thing right now. Then you need to scale energy capability, and that will probably be a bottleneck as well. Yeah, so I wanted to go through just some different businesses in the AI ecosystem today and get to some example of some companies. So we'll go through big tech, semiconductor industry, cloud, SaaS, and e-commerce. And so big tech, I think big tech is aiming in the right direction in a big way. We will have some of big tech with infrastructure aspirations. That's the cloud service providers, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google. NVIDIA is also trying to, or are becoming a part of the infrastructure with their DDX cloud and with their collaborations with the cloud service providers and Oracle. And then you have Meta, which is also trying to become infrastructure, and it's more on the software side with their Llama models. They're trying not to get into the same position as they've been in for the past technological wave. And then you have some big tech with use case aspirations. You have Tesla with their real world AI, and I think this is so undervalued. Once you understand what it really means to be able to put a machine loose in the real world, that's what you need for robotics, not just self-driving cars, but every robot that's going to be in the real world, it needs to understand whether it's a snowman or a man with his back turned or what it is. And we have Microsoft with its copilots that will develop into automation. We have Amazon with copilots for merchants and Bedrock, and we have NVIDIA doing a lot on the software side as well. Google's use cases, I have a little bit. It's going to be around search, on the last earnings call, and I heard some interviews. I think they're doing probably a good job with use cases for businesses, and I'm not sure on the consumer side how much new they can. I think generative AI will be a bad thing for them on the consumer side. Yeah. Then the semiconductor industry is definitely the right direction. You have the leading edge chips, and there's been a lot of talk of whether there's fuel enough for that to go on. And listening to big tech's capex, capital expenditure build out, and what they talk about, how much they're going to invest over the coming years, it seems like they'll be securing a lot of demand for leading edge chips. So I think this case has fuel for some more years, and that's NVIDIA, that's Taiwan Semiconductor, that's Broadcom, and Micron is on the memory side, and they are sort of getting tailwinds both from data center demand for high bandwidth memory, but also for the next generation of PCs and phones which need more memory to be AI ready. So Micron is having a lot of tailwinds. Then you have the IP and design part of the semiconductor industry. I see them as steady trains that's just going and going. They're really expensive, but also really good defensible business models for many years, Cadence, Synopsys, and ARM. Then we have the semi-equipment part of the semi-industry. And we've had ASML and Lam research with earnings. I haven't listened to KLAC yet, but it seems like that the pickup in demand for these will be in 2025 and not so much just in the near-term future. Then we have industrial and auto. It's in a downturn right now, half year in the autumn, 24 or 2025 will probably be the time for those. Texas Instruments just got out with their earnings, and people were a little bit enthusiastic that maybe we had the bottom, but it's not confirmed yet. And then we have the edge compute. Then we have the two sort of sectors I think is really interesting now, which is sort of coming from behind and getting more relevant, is edge compute and data center, which is kind of the same. So data center is, we've seen a lot of data center demand, but it's been the hyperscalers building AI training capacity. So when I talk about data center here, I mean normal companies that will need to upgrade their data center to do inferencing, and that takes network, it takes compute, and it takes memory, and Dell will be in a good position for that. Their AI revenues is only about 5% of their total revenues, but the increased need for compute in general and for networking and memory will be something that Dell will help install and put in place. Supermicro computer is also riding this trend. They're coming out with earnings tonight, as I recall, so that'll be exciting. But I really like these three long term. Vertiv Holdings is building data centers, is more on the physical side of things, the real world side of things, securing the required power supply and liquid cooling and stuff. SMIC is also building out their liquid cooling capabilities to be able to deliver on the next generation of data centers, which will be the leading edge chips, which will need liquid cooling. And then we have the edge compute, the PCs and smartphones that will come out with more compute, more memory, and more capabilities, be AI ready. And I think Intel is really interesting here at this point, because Pat Gelsinger has been trying to undo the wrong decisions that they have made at Intel. So he's trying to catch up to make Intel a technology leader again, and also dividing the company into a fabless company and a fab company. They seem to be executing quite nicely, and I think a lot of pessimism is built into Intel right now, and they're coming out with the new generations of chips, which is enabling them to catch up with AMD or to narrow the gap to AMD. Qualcomm is going to benefit from edge compute, from higher compute capabilities of smartphones, of autos, of Internet of Things, and Micron I talked about. So this is really, I think, the really interesting segment. Yeah. And then heterogeneous compute is also going to be a trend. There's going to be a lot of different semiconductor producers, leading edge compute producers. Apple, Google, Amazon, Meta, and Microsoft are all fabless chip producers as well. So I just wanted to talk about cloud here and on-prem. Both of those are the right direction. all compute is going to increase, both cloud and on-prem. The advantages of cloud versus on-prem is the multi-tenancy. So if you have your compute on-premise, then you need to be able to meet the highest demand, the peak demand, and that means you'll have a lot of idle capacity when you're not at peak demand, and that costs on the hardware side, and that's one of the advantages of being on the cloud. The cloud can scale more because you're sharing the same solution, and cloud providers will be building enabling platforms where you have multiple solutions in one solution. Cloud versus the edge. So cloud is more centralized than the edge, and there'll be something about economics. Bandwidth costs money, and cloud compute is more expensive. So the edge can sometimes be cheaper. Then there is physical limitations on cloud compute. If you need something with low latency on the edge, then it might take the speed of light might be an obstacle that you cannot overwin. So you can't send the compute to the cloud and then have it back in time for a good user experience. So physics might be a limiting factor. And then there's laws of the land. Sometimes it's easier not to send data across a border, but just to keep it inside the company or inside the land to de-risk everything. Software as a service is the right direction as well, but I think software as a service has been through the easy part. I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation in the future here, a lot of platformization where customers will want more. They don't want to buy solutions from 200 different vendors. They want to have more solutions in one solution. We see Microsoft really just winning because of this, because they have one big solution for really many things, and I think we're going to see more of that. And then SaaS is Copilot ready. It's digitized workloads, and it's quite easy to plug in some AI solutions on it. And I think it's going to be very hard to predict long term which are going to be the winners in this segment. And when we look at it from in a fundamental perspective, these companies are really expensive. So I don't think it's the easy pick for the future right now. So e-commerce. I wanted to talk about that in an AI perspective, and getting the consumers. E-commerce is basically, it's about getting the consumer's attention, and then it's about selling the product. That's e-commerce, and then what you want to do is once you've succeeded, you want to use the data from the point of sale to optimize one. To talk to the customer in the right way, with the right timing, and about the right product, and you can do that when you have data. So 5 years ago, that was really easy. You just tracked everybody with cookies and tracking and stuff like that. And then ATT came along, Apple's changes to the app transparency tracking, and regulators are prohibiting a lot of this three here. So today, to be able to get data from the point of sale, you need to have the point of sale. That's where you get the data. And I think that's going to be the problem for Google and Meta, that they don't have this. And we're going to see a whole lot of other companies that have access to that data being able to compete more levelly with Google and Meta in the future because of this. And what you need to look for is vertically integration, where in an ideal world, you want to have both parts here. You want to have the platform that gets your consumers' attention, and you want to have the platform that sells the product. So I used TikTok and Walmart here as examples. And last time TikTok, when Trump ordered TikTok to be sold, Walmart was actually one of the bidders for TikTok, or one of the contestants that wanted to buy TikTok. And this is the reason for it, in my opinion, at least. So vertically integrated platforms, having both the consumer attention platform and the selling platform, is Amazon. It's Shopee of Sea Limited. It's Instacart. Instacart and Uber, and a platform like Roku, where you watch TV. Now, Uber is an aggregator on the internet. Back 10 years, when you wanted to do anything on the internet, you would Google it, or you would use Meta. But today, a lot of specialized aggregators has come up. So if you want to go somewhere, you don't start with Google, you start with Uber. And if you're in the supermarket, you don't Google anything. You use Instacart for that, because that's up already. So so they have attention. They have attention that is specific for a buying situation, and I think that's going to be a super strength. And therefore, e-commerce is I think it's an overlooked opportunity in some ways right now. So my conclusions for the future, and I'm finished just in a second here, is that AI investments are kind of guaranteed right now because of big tech. Big tech eyes the opportunity, and they're going to be investing a lot in it. That was clear from the earnings report we had out from Google and from Microsoft here. The value of AI terminal will depend on use cases, just like the value of automobiles is depending on the use cases, and that's an immense value that we're going to see down the line. I think we overestimate the economic impact of AI in the short term, like in 1915 with the cars. That the cars didn't change the economy. Electricity changed the economy and made the roaring 20s, but not the car. And then I think we're underestimating the economic impact of AI long term, because we simply can't imagine how a world with automation and robotization will function, and how that will be economically. And I think an interesting thing here is about big tech actually is that big tech sees this, and then they know this is the opportunity, and they're going to invest, because it would be extremely dumb otherwise. They can't buy anything, but they can invest in this great new opportunity, and they can secure to be the leaders in infrastructure for AI. And then the interesting question is, are big tech investors willing to accept the capex that's going to flow from these companies over the coming years? And Meta was just down 20% after their earnings release, simply because of this. And Mark Zuckerberg, he was just blunt. He said, we're going to invest a lot of money in AI infrastructure. So that remains to be determined. And then we'll see the next generation of tech companies emerge and create tons of value for stock pickers, not for index investors. So now, people say that the zeros were dead for tech investors, and no, they were not. We had Apple emerging, we had Google emerging, we had Meta being created and emerging, we had Amazon just kicking it. We had Mercado Libre being built in Latin America. So we had lots and lots. We had Priceline. We had lots of these companies being built and really growing fast. And I think that's the period that we're going to be in for the next five, maybe even 10 years before some of these of the next generation has become so big that they are able to pull the indices higher. But right now, many of these are small or smaller companies, and the companies that we are investing in NewDeal Invest. So we think we have the best solution for tech and AI investment right now. Broad, actively managed, diverse portfolios in these three distribution channels: eToro, our public listed fund, PMI NDI, and our unlisted main fund, where the minimum investment is 100,000 euros. So that was what I had. Let's open it up for questions.
Thank you, Mads. There are no questions at the moment, but I hope they will arrive soon. There was one about Nordnet.
Yeah.
And I answered it that we are still not on Nordnet.
No, Nordnet is a large Danish trading platform, and we are not on Nordnet. And yeah, they want they want a special fee for that, a mixture between Apple's platform fee and Mastercard's login fee. So we made a principled decision and turned them down. And now we have eToro, where Danish investors can invest in our portfolios.
Yeah, and it's very low cost, actually.
Yeah.
Which was very nice. I was wondering, with the AI long term, if you try to now we are looking as investors, and investors are usually like 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, maybe a year. But if you look at the long term and the big transformation, like you said, we cannot predict it. We could not predict what would happen with data. Do you have any ideas of where this will lead us? What was going to with the jobs and things like that? How will this transform our lives? Like you have a vision for that?
Yeah, there's this discussion about jobs. What will happen when robots do the cleaning of houses, and what do those people do for jobs? And there's never been a time in history where we haven't been worried about new technology making us unemployed, and it's never materialized. So, but that's what Carlotta Perez is talking about when she says it's going to change the way we live. So people are going to be doing something else, which I really also. Preparing for this, really this concept of not knowing where we're going, and sort of understanding that it's not that it's unpredictable. Nobody can tell, and I think that I really like it. I think it's beautiful in a way that we'll just need to wait and see and be open to all the crazy people talking, like Elon Musk. He sometimes he overpromises and sometimes he's provocative, but listening to people like him, I think you need to just listen and accept that probably a lot of it will materialize down the line. And some of it was just not going to be possible, but just be open, I guess, and then there's all this. How is it going to be? Is it going to be a good thing or a bad thing?
Okay.
And I like Andreessen Horowitz's take on it. He wrote an essay called "AI is Going to Save the World," where he writes a lot about it. And one of the things he said is that AI is going to be an extra intelligence that we can rely on. And going back in history, intelligence has never been a problem for the world. It's almost always been a good thing. So, yeah.
That was the guy with software eating the world, right?
That was he got famous on that one.
We have more questions now. So
yes.
Yeah. Do you see any bottlenecks in the AI industry?
I don't know. To be frank, I think it's really hard. I think there are a lot of smart people knowing the problems. Actually, one of the places where there are problems where you don't have people that are able to tackle them are energy utilities. So so these large AI data centers, they are going to be so energy dense that they are going to really change the capabilities of the grid and change the demands of the grid. And utility companies are companies that are used to a growth of very small growth rates. So if they're going to tackle that demand might double in 10 years or something like that in certain areas, they're not used to that. And that could be a problem because you have some people in charge that are not really used to things evolving fast. So you might have these people building gas plants and oil plants just because that's the only solution they've been used to when they needed to increase output quickly. But yeah, big tech is also trying to solve that part of the equation. So just nice we have them.
Yeah, I can say that about utilities that it's always been very regulated. So, for instance, the ones who use water power, they get very bad prices for their very clean, very energy sort of environmentally good energy, and that will probably have to change if you have to change the incentives. We have at least 3 more questions. Thoughts about cybersecurity versus AI, and which companies do you see having an edge?
It's a really complex place. Cybersecurity. You have the big companies that are becoming platforms like CrowdStrike, like Palo Alto Networks, and naturally like Microsoft, and they have an advantage there. The disadvantage for them is that they are they're sort of stitching the solutions together. Buying companies, Palo Alto Networks has been really good at that. So then you have this fast changing world where you have new startups coming in. So again, I think it's hard to predict the long-term winners. And but I think we'll make a Q&A session when most of these companies had released earnings reports, and we'll bring Simon and or Jordan on it, and let them do the cybersecurity segment because they are really, really sharp at that. But the good thing about cybersecurity, I think it's really a good place to be. And we've had corrections both in Palo Alto Networks and Sentinel-1 and CrowdStrike, and Fortinet as well. So the good thing about that industry is that it's the demands are just becoming bigger and bigger all the time. The bad guys are getting better and better all the time. So it's a never-ending demand. Yeah, probably a good place to be.
Yeah. Okay. Can you say something about the latest trades in your universe? I remember you said you sold a lot of Delivery Hero here in Aktienuniverset.
Yeah. So I really think that we're coming out of a long and we've been going up ever since, and so people have been feeling safe, and now we're at new all-time new highs, and we're getting some disappointments. Inflation is not coming down like it should. Doubts are coming in about interest rates, and then we have the Middle East where with the conflict there. So I think we're coming from a sense of low risk to a sense of higher risk, and we're entering the summer now. And after the summer, we have some weak months in August and September. So I think that the sense of risk will emerge for investors, and we've been we're more cash than we've been for a long time now in our portfolios, just to be able to be on the buy side when you get these setbacks, and when I was planning for what to sell, Delivery Hero was one of those companies that just seemed like a good thing to sell, because they had doubled in share price over a couple of months, I think, and their best business is in the MENA region in the Middle East, where there's a conflict threatening now, and then half of their business is in South Korea, where Coupang Eats is just competing very fiercely. So there was a lot of risk in that stock, but it's also something that when we get these downturns in tech stocks, it's actually because of the volatility, and once you start thinking about geometric returns instead of linear returns, and you should think of geometric returns, then volatility matters a lot more. And now we're coming from a world with low volatility, low perceived volatility, to a world where people will get more volatility sensitive. So I think that could hurt some of our stocks, and they could produce buying opportunities. I still think that AI is a huge opportunity right now, and all of our positions are really positioned well for AI. So I think it's wrong to be on the sidelines. I just think you need to manage it more actively. So what we also did was we sold our positions in that are based in Israel, and that's Tower Semi. It's Productivity Monday, and then one more, which is the cross-border e-commerce company. I just can't remember the name now. But they're based in Israel, and yeah, just wanting to get down in allocations, it seems natural to sell most of those positions. But then we've been selling a little bit of everything to bring our cash position up a bit.
We gotta mention here that it's Global E, the one you forgot.
It's Global E, yeah, right.
We have 4 more questions, and then it's, I think, Champions League time. So,
hard competition.
And we have some from YouTube as well. Any thoughts on Airbnb in an AI setting?
I don't know how innovative Airbnb is, but there should be a lot of opportunities with AI to create customer services and to create travel services with AI. On Airbnb, I've been missing a little bit them talking about things they want to build. So that's kind of my take on it. We have a position because it's a good business, strong business. But not so many specific thoughts on that one.
Okay. Thoughts on the current valuation of Mercado Libre?
I think it's really cheap at the moment, and it's cheap compared to where it usually trades. So it went up to about 1,800 in January, and it was strong before rest of the tech segment that it usually trades around. So so it fell to the bottom of it has an upwards trend channel, and it's fallen to the bottom of that right now. So we were selling at 1,800 in January, not because we thought it was expensive, but simply because it had gone up, and many of our other stocks had not gone up at that time in January, and now it's the other way around. So we are building out our position in Mercado Libre right now.
Yes. Which sector do you think will be the next to undergo radical changes as a result of AI?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think if people, especially on the YouTube chat, do fill in what you think would be the next sectors. I think it's really here we need to help each other as investors to find the next thing to emerge. But it's like standing back in the early zeros and trying to pick out which companies would be the winners, pick Priceline, Intuit, Amazon, etc. That's sort of what we're going to be doing over the next 5-10 years, and it's really just about ideas and about talking about it and pitching things to each other, and then hopefully we'll be able to find the best ideas, and actually I think it's one of the things that we have going for us in NewDeal Invest, because so many people are pitching ideas to us on social media, and that's a big help. That's how we found Super Microcomputer and was able to ride that one. So keep that up and keep it coming in the Q&A sessions and for the Aktienuniverset, and we'll share it and we'll have the ideas mature.
Yeah. Okay. One final question. When one looks at companies like Meta, and I will guess Google as well, with all their data, which strengthens their AI potential, but how will they use it to make a lot more money? Sort of separate use case or just better optimization?
So back 5 years ago, Meta and Google had the best data because of cookies and because of tracking. So they really had good data. Now they don't have the best data anymore. That'll be Instacart, and that'll be Roku, that'll be Uber. They have the best data now, and all the point of sales have the best data. So Google and Meta are making up for that with AI, and that's been the story, that they've been able to target the ads via AI in just a good manner, and I don't think it's possible, because AI costs electricity. So if it's like some companies know something, and you have to use expenses to guess what they know. So they have a disadvantage right now. So I think people are not thinking this to the end, what has really happened. But then they are the biggest, they are the death stars of advertising. So when you want to advertise, you go there, because they are the biggest, and that's where you've been used to going. But I think that will gradually change somewhat. It's not like I'm saying that they're going to die, because they're not, but I think that the relative strength compared to retail media and that stuff has changed because of this, and they have a disadvantage, but they have the advantage that they are best at AI. So it's a give and take, and. Yeah.
Well, doesn't it come down to that? The big question is they have more data than anybody else, because you're using Gmail, you're using Google Docs, you're using all these things. They know everything about it. They even know where you're going on Google Maps when you type in on your phone. So they know all this stuff, but they can't use it. But what if they could? Wouldn't they sort of still be the Death Star? If they find a way that they say that the chat GPT or the language models and so on, they are probabilistic, so they don't have concrete knowledge. But if you train them on all this knowledge they have, they will still be able to use it somewhat.
Yes, somewhat. But it's like if you're producing cars in a country, and in this country you have rubber for the wheels, then that's an advantage. And if you're another country, you can buy the rubber and then you can produce cars, but it's going to be more expensive. So I think that's that way around. They can do the same, but it comes with a cost. But still they're best at AI. I can't really elaborate more on it.
Anyway, thank you, Mads. It's been very interesting. I think everybody feels more equipped to sort of look at AI investment, and anyway, we are all confused and at a higher level at the moment. So that's nice.
Yeah. Thanks, and thanks for listening, everybody. And remember, we have Q&A sessions via our YouTube channel, and you can send us questions for the next Q&A. You can do it in the comments for this webinar, or you can do it on the last Q&A. So hit us with your questions, and thanks for listening, and have a great Champions League semifinal.